Welcome. It is another beautiful Saturday when Weekend Report comes to your living room. For an outlook of tonight's package, more Nigerians train on leveraging the agriculture chain value. Insecurity at its peak in some parts of Kwara North. And on our discussion segment tonight, we take a look at drug abuse and its impact on the society as the world marks the World Drug Week. And of course, tidbits from the world of sports and weather. This and more shortly. I am Yabodi Olorunsola. Please stay tuned. The National Center for Agricultural Mechanization says it will continue to leverage the vast potentials in the agricultural sector through training of Nigerians to be self-sufficient. This came to the fore at the closing ceremony for women and youth on preservation of agricultural products, packaging, storage and marketing. Olajide Bilo was there for Weekend Report.
We got soya milk from the soya bean. You know how we did the processing.
The one-week intensive training availed the participants with requisite skills in processing agricultural products in line with international best practices and a more hygienic way for consumption. Out of the vast agricultural products that the country is endowed with, Income decided to pick locust and soya beans.
With this, even if you have a job and you have this, it's like you are ready to even employ more people. With this, you can become employers of labor instead of job seekers. Highlighting
the health benefits of these products, the training did not only avail the participants the opportunity to be more enlightened, but also inject cutting-edge technology in production, packaging and marketing.
The only way we can encourage them is the introduction of technology, new way of producing it.
Adequate funding, according to Income, will go a long way to open vistas of adequate training to reposition Nigerian women and youth to be more productive.
As we are now, the equipment we are using, because we are engineers and technologists, we want to improve, to have more of these machines, research more of these machines, and make sure that these machines are more available to whoever we train. Today we train them, we get us some startup pack. That startup pack cannot buy the end machine. It's based on the little available fund. Even this condition for the federal government to release fund, I say thank you, sir.
Temitope Ajayi, a native of Ekiti, is one of the participants drawn from the 36 states of the Federation. According to him, the training has expanded his horizon as to money spinners in the agriculture value chain.
We have been taught on how to make locust beans, the popular one we all know, and how to preserve it and how to package it and how we can commercialize it and become money to us.
For other participants, the training has given them an entrepreneurial mindset of harnessing the vast potentials in agriculture.
To me, I can really say that it was a very good one, and I'm grateful to Income for this opportunity.
How to make powder from soya milk and the health benefits too of soya milk, and how to process it to be healthy for consumption, especially for babies, which I did not know prior to this training.
The participants commended the federal government and Income for the opportunity, describing it as a right step in the right direction. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
The agricultural sector receiving a boost there. And from agriculture, we move to security. Stakeholders in Kwara North Senatorial District are appealing to the federal government to establish a military base in the area to check the rising case of kidnapping and banditry in Barutin and Kayama local government areas of Kwara State. Kehinde Omolosho, who just came back from that area, has this report.
Many lives across the country have been lost to terrorism and banditry, mostly in the northeast and northwest in the last 3 months. Abduction and kidnappings have also been on the increase, with ransom paid in many cases to secure the release of victims. The North Central Zone, where Kwara State belongs, is also now becoming infested with armed bandits and kidnappers. This growing threat to lives and property in the state, particularly in Baruti and Kayama local government areas, was raised by Senator Sadiq Umar at the plenary.
That Kanji Lake, a thick forest that cut across from Barugu local government to Kayama local government to Baruti local government, they've taken charge of that place. It has become so fortified with criminals, and our people are being kidnapped, killed, ransom being collected from them. We are a peaceful people, and we've always enjoyed so much peace. We are farmers, our people cannot go to farm any longer.
We heard of the boundaries that they have, the influence that they gave. So the next thing I can quickly do, as the local government chairman here, to block them, I have to move to Oyo State to bring soldiers, which I bring over 250 soldiers. And immediately I have to equip them with machines, and I bought about 6 or 7 machines. That is their requirement. They didn't stop there, they said they want more because we have to take them to Karunji. That is the extreme end there to make sure that they have blocked all those places. And I want to assure you, the very first day they went there, they've eliminated a lot.
Ahmed Idris, a retired soldier, is the Borosoru of Bobo. He laments a growing threat to the people of the area.
We are battling with insecurity. Firstly, if we see Baruti here, all the routes are very porous. When you pass here, you are busting out to the Benin Republic. And when you make any robbery cases from Benin, once you enter here, you escape. So it is so obvious that the security problem is a great issue that we need to tackle.
What then is the way out?
If they know that there is a superior military power around that corner, they will be careful not to come and attack our people in the community. This fight is more of intelligent gathering. We need to know what they are planning, what they are thinking, for us to be able to, attack and stop them from it.
This forest, the forest that we have across board between the Niger State and Kora, it does not help at this critical time. We should allow people to clear that because it's now an hideout for these bandits to come there and they start disturbing our people.
We don't wait till the people are kidnapped before we make a security checks. We have to be up and doing.
There are grave concerns that if security issues are not addressed decisively, more crop farmers will be forced to abandon their farms with corresponding threat to food security in the country. Kehinde Omolosho, NTA News.
About 20 people were arrested and punished for violating the Kwara State environmental sanitation laws. Fumilayo Familoni, who monitored the exercise in Ilorin Metropolis, reports that low level of compliance was recorded.
Every last Saturday of the month is Kwara State's monthly sanitation exercise to ensure residents clean their environment from 7 to 9 in the morning. Despite prior announcement for this month's exercise, however, some residents disobeyed the directive by moving about and transacting their businesses. In Maraba, Ipata Market, and Gambari, where there was no presence of security agents, shops were opened while buying and selling took place.
Don't listen to warning. Despite being told that there will be sanitation today, they did not adhere to instructions.
We are only trying to drive them out of the market. Still now, people are still coming inside the market to buy and sell.
It was a different situation at Isaleoja, where some residents were cleaning their surroundings amidst security presence. Mobile courts were mounted with violators charged with various offences.
The other weeks, we had so many people, so many violators. But today is improving, you can see, there are not many.
We told them to move the exam forward, which they also said they were going to comply with. So we told them to start probably around 10, 11, and they said they was fine. The announcement, the sensitization had been going on for days now. And of course, everybody is aware there would be sanitation.
The arrested offenders became remorseful after they were penalized.
The message did not get to them. How could I leave as early as 5 and get to my center before then? Because of this embarrassment, I've never been embarrassed in my life.
The state government is not resting on its ears at ensuring that Kwara State regains its lost glory of being one of the most cleanest states in Nigeria. Fumilayo Familoni, NTA News.
In a bid to promote access to safe and affordable surgery procedures, the Federal Ministry of Health has introduced a strategic plan and framework to bridge identified gaps in surgical care for Nigerians. Abdulafiz Alaya was at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, where the National Surgical Obstetrics, Anesthesia and Nursing Plan was introduced to the management and staff of the health institution.
Statistics have shown that only 10% of Nigeria's population have access to surgical care, and this is far below the projection of the universal health coverage. The Federal Ministry of Health, in its effort to address this challenge, came up with NSOP, which tertiary health institutions are expected to embrace and promote in the interest of all. The plan identified gaps in infrastructure and equipment, finance, health information and human resources, among others, with clear strategic plan to get them resolved.
We want to train more specialists. We want to train middle-level workforce, that is medical doctors that are not specialists but they are able to perform certain surgical procedures. We also want to balance the distribution of surgical workforce so that it's not more concentrated in the urban areas.
To the management of University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, the plan is a timely intervention that will ensure a turnaround in the nation's health sector, and the hospital is ready to key in.
We need more equipment to be able to do all this, and we need more personnel to be able to do all this. Definitely we are going to do that. I heard the team lead who said that international organizations too are interested in this, so they can come in and at least assist us.
Is this program ready to sponsor?
Members of staff also itemized some areas of challenges in surgical care and made inputs on how to make the plan work better for effective service delivery. Abdelaziz Alaya, NTA News.
Crime. One of the addictions prevalent among people, especially the youth, is drug abuse, which increases their involvement in crimes and criminality. This is why Weekend Report is taking tonight out to discuss the issues surrounding drug. And I have a guest ready for you in the studio. But just before I bring him in, let's take a look at this report by Aisha Yaya Abubakar.
Drug abuse refers to the use of certain chemicals for the purpose of creating pleasurable effects on the brain, with statistics estimating drug users to be around 190 million people in the world. Its effects have been increasing at alarming rates, especially among young adults under the age of 30. Researchers and past events have proven that majority of those who indulge in crimes and other forms of evil acts are under the influence of drugs.
I think the parents should train their children well, both spiritually and morally.
So I think we should trace everything back to the family, which is the smallest unit of the society.
Within the last 1 year, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Kwara Command has arrested about 415 suspected drug dealers in the state, while some drug addicts have been rehabilitated.
If we arrest you and you're a user, we will cancel you. We will tell you the dangers and the effect of this illicit drug, so that you will not go back to it.
It is in view of all these problems caused by drug abuse among people that a week-long activities is set aside globally to combat misinformation about drugs and sharing drugs-related facts, as well as solutions for treatments to fight against the problem.
The challenges we have now, we want the state government and the stakeholders to come to our assistance. We need operational vehicle in Kwara State, and I want the state government to come to our aid to complete this project, Rehabilitation Center.
The theme for this year's celebration is addressing drug challenges in health and humanitarian crisis. Aisha Abubakar Yahaya, NTA News.
Thank you, Aisha, for setting the tone for the discussion tonight. Drugs, a precursor to crime and criminality. And my guest is set with me in the studio. He's a familiar face. He's an ambassador of WADA, War Against Drug Abuse. And he has been able to, during this week, they have been able to carry out many activities to fight drug abuse. Thank you for joining us on Weekend Report, Mr. Ade Bodunde.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so people take drug for healing and other things. So at what point do we say drug is being abused?
Abuse is actually about not using it correctly.
So it happens when people don't use it according to prescription, or when people don't even request for prescription from the right source before they begin to use it, like self-medication.
Okay.
Yes. Or going to somebody who is not competent enough. And we have a lot of that. That's one of the biggest problems in Nigeria. There's a huge gap that does not make people to have the right access to recommendations from qualified personnel. Okay. All right. The gap between the number of doctors to the population is so wide. So even the community health extension workers, capable hands, very, very low, to the population. And you find that in a lot of cases, even when it looks as if, okay, people are using prescription drugs, it is people who trained, who learned chemists. Some of them are secondary school dropouts, and they just open the chemist and begin to sell drugs, and they somehow become the local doctor. For example, in quite a number of states, it is only the state capital and maybe 2 or 3 other large towns in the state that have medical doctors. So many local governments that are in the rural areas, for example, we just heard on the news about the level of insecurity in Kayama and Bauchi. Who will train as a medical doctor and want to stay there? So even safety, the social facilities, in most of our remote areas, is not conducive for learned people, professionals, experts to want to stay there. That denies people from having access.
Okay, so if I get you right now, you are saying there is no line, whether thin or thick, between drugs, the regular primary and secondary drugs, abuse of paracetamol and abuse of cocaine or Indian.
There is.
So what is the
now, you see, when we are looking at categories and classifications of drugs, yes, then we now come to that. Okay. There's a difference between abuse and drug use disorder. So, for example, for those who use hard drugs, that is those are illicit drugs, banned drugs that are not even supposed to be in the marketplace. Alright? So using them is simply illegal and hazardous to health. And calling it abuse is just like massaging or looking for a nice language.
What would you call it?
To give it. Well, it is actually acting against the law. It is criminal, simple. So on the part of the supplier, the marketers, and the buyer, what they are doing is criminal.
Okay. Okay. What would you call the use of illicit drug or abuse of illicit drug?
Well, it is abuse all the same.
Okay.
But I would also want us to use a stronger language for it.
Okay.
Going forward.
So you want to provide a stronger language?
Yeah.
Like
it is illegal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's now go to the issue in the society, the rate at which the youth in particular abuse drug is also alarming, especially in Kayama and Bauchi, where we have said there is so much insecurity. I wouldn't rule out the fact that many of them are also on drugs, and then they decide to go into crime and criminality as such. What do you think is the baseline for this? What is causing this trouble in our society?
Drug is usually one of the additional factors that builds, onto certain existing issues.
Yes.
For example, unemployment. Okay, like particularly during the COVID-19, we should look at the entry point, which is usually peer pressure, bad role models, undue availability and access. Like, for example, there are parents that take alcohol or smoke cigarettes, and for children from as early as the age of 4, 5, 6 begin to emulate these bad habits, and that is an entry point for a lot of young people. These socially available drugs reinforced by manufacturers who actually package these drugs and make it cheaper. Like there are these smaller sachets of 30 naira. So you give a child 50 naira and he just turns the corner and buys the sachet to do big boy. There are legislations that are supposed to prescribe the sales of these things. Okay. So it is the entry point that is usually the problem. And then, like during the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of young people who have been using these things and we are gradually becoming dependent, it was a serious trigger point during COVID-19 when boredom, loneliness, and so on, creates that kind of opportunity for them to.
That brings me to the next question. Artists, most of our artists, a lot of people believe are on drugs and they believe they are promoting drug abuse. Do you agree with that?
Yes and no. You see, there are professional, there are profiling of professions that professional bodies really have to work on to ensure that they have a good public image. For example, there was a time when it was believed that media practitioners, especially ladies in the media or artists, are prostitutes. Or even ladies that are in the nursing profession. There is this profiling of professions that puts in the psyche of the young person that if you are going into this field, you have to
take drugs,
do certain things, and that is where the issue of drugs comes in. Now, you see, with time, where crime comes into it, if somebody has already had criminal tendencies, then it can aggravate it because they need extra income to have access to be able to purchase. And then there is also the fact that people who use drugs gradually and eventually begin to live above their income in order to be able to meet that need.
So, but everybody cannot be artists.
They go, no, and then they go into crime. So for artists, for example, who begin to use drugs, it's the same with people in sports, who are into sports. With time, performance begin to reduce and be in search of inspiration or additional strength, to go the extra mile, they tend to begin to overdo themselves. And, they kind of flip over, eventually.
Okay, we have identified that drug abuse is a menace.
It is a menace.
And it is a thick bone in our neck here in this country.
Yes.
How do we resolve this issue?
You see, one of the sub-themes for 2022 is strengthening action and cooperation, partnerships. And like being here today is like a partnership between civil society group which I represent, the State Drug Control Committee, of which I'm the PRO, and the media. This is a very, very good, because a lot of awareness has to be created. What the entry points for drug use can be as early as 4 years, 5 years. When children pick up the stub of cigarettes or begin to take the leftover of alcohol.
So that is how their parents have to.
Very good. So parenting is very, very crucial. Being observant as parents, very, very important. The average age entry point is around 8 years or 9 years.
Wow.
And usually this is because at this age they have small money to take to school. And with that, they can buy a stick of cigarettes or buy the sachets, Jim, Chelsea, or whatever they call it, and go and do big boy in school. So these entry points are times when we have to look at. Parenting should not be taken for granted. It has to be deliberate and conscious.
You have spoken about policy making, you have spoken about parenting.
Yes.
Yesterday I saw a skit about a young man who was complaining that the economy is hard and it is harsh, and how do we go about it? But now that drugs is now expensive, that, I mean, why should that be allowed in the social media space?
Like drugs?
Yes, somebody canvassing for high cost of a drug in their hand, for example.
You see, you recall that there was a time when a governor was even canvassing that marijuana should be legitimized for cultivation. So, and this is one of the challenges that we have, that they are across board, particularly among people of influence and policy makers, that they are not even conscious about what kind of statements to make public. You see, there are discussions that ought to be held before people like them begin to talk. And it is this type of things that kind of give the wrong impression and send the wrong signals out.
I wish we could say more and more, but time would not permit us. We want to thank you for coming on Weekend Report.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for the information you have given us. We will continue to partner with you to fight this great war against drug abuse.
And indeed it is a war. Thank you.
Weekend Report will continue in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Have come with some bites. Oh, man.
Sports Zone. This is your sports rendezvous. Happening in the world of sports. You deserve to know. You want it analyzed? Sports Zone on NTA ILORIN, both local and international. You get the breaking news and the history, analyzing with brilliant sport exponents. Live every Wednesday, 9 to 9:30 in the morning. That's the time for your wonderful moment in sport infotainment. Sports Zone. Join us. Let's set the agenda.
Thank you for staying with us on NTA ILORIN Weekend Report, and I'm afraid this is what we call it, a day on Weekend Report. Thank you for being a part of it. I leave you with the weather forecast for tomorrow, Sunday, 26th of June 2022. Good evening and have a lovely weekend.